Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of sources here today,
Yeah, whole pile. Looks like articles, news snippets.
all focused on the crypto market and specifically around June 5th, 2025.
Right.
And our goal really in this deep dive is to just cut through all that information,
Mm-hmm.
pull out the most important bits, the surprising facts, key insights, just for you.
Exactly. Think of it as like the shortcut. We sift through it so you don't have to. We'll guide you to what really stands out.
And speaking of standing out, wow, right off the bat, there's this story from CoinMarketCap. It's kind of wild, almost defies the usual market stuff.
Oh, yeah, the solo miner one.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's a really rare event.
Oh.
This source, it says one single person mining completely on their own.
Not part of some huge pool, right?
Exactly. Managed to solve a block and got the entire reward.
And it's a big one, 3.15 Bitcoin. I mean, at today's prices, that's just massive luck, isn't it?
Totally. Especially now with how hard solo mining is. It's like, yeah, winning the lottery while everyone else is in these giant operations.
Right.
It kind of underscores how unpredictable the network reward thing can still be. Even as everything gets more, professionalized and centralized. That solo win is definitely an outlier in these sources.
For sure. But okay, beyond that piece of incredible luck, these sources do dive into the more typical stuff, the technicals, the market analysis.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at what they say about some of the big coins, Bitcoin, naturally, Dogecoin, and XRP too.
And there are also some really interesting, honestly conflicting takes in these articles about where we are in the crypto market cycle overall.
Oh, like, are we early, peaking, or
Mhm.
somewhere else?
Yeah, the sources seem to have pretty different answers on that one. It's quite the mix.
Okay, interesting. So stick with us. We're going to unpack this whole information stack for you, find the most relevant, most interesting points pulled directly from these pages.
Sounds good.
Let's kick things off with the big one then, Bitcoin.
Okay. So according to one of the sources, looks like this piece from Crypto Newsland Bitcoin was trading right around the $105,000 mark on June 5th.
105K. Okay. And this source mentions the 50-day moving average. That's like a key technical thing traders watch, right? The
Mhm.
average price over the last 50 days.
Exactly. And it says that average was acting as support, kind of holding the price up just below where it was trading. It also mentions Bitcoin was near a triangle apex around that 105K level.
A triangle apex. Okay, break that down. That's when the price movement gets tighter, isn't it? Like it's squeezing.
Yeah, precisely. It's consolidating into a narrower range. And usually that signals a big move is coming, one way or the other.
Uh-huh.
This source suggests if Bitcoin were to break out above this triangle pattern,
Like decisively break out.
right, then the target could be $110,000.
Okay, so this source paints 105K as a real pivot point then. You've got that 50-day average nearby as support and this tightening triangle apex pattern.
Mhm.
Depending on which way it breaks, the technical target is either $110 up or, well, presumably lower if it breaks down.
Yeah, the source focuses on the upside target here. But you're right, a breakdown would imply lower levels. It gives a snapshot of potential short-term path
Yeah.
based on those specific patterns they saw.
Got it. That gives us a clear picture of the immediate technical situation for Bitcoin, according to that article anyway.
Exactly. Just one perspective from the stack.
Okay, cool. Now let's shift gears a bit from the market leader to some of the altcoins mentioned in these sources. What about Dogecoin? There's a piece here from Yellow News.
Yes, Dogecoin. That article talks about it falling below the $1.20 support level.
Right. But what's interesting is how they interpret that drop in their technical analysis. It's not just, oh no, people are selling.
No, not at all. They frame it very specifically as a calculated liquidity sweep.
A liquidity sweep. Sounds kind of technical. What does that mean?
Well, the source presents it as like a deliberate move, probably by bigger players, maybe whales or trading firms. They intentionally push the price below a known support level, like $0.20 in this case. Why? To trigger stop-loss orders that other people have set.
Ah, okay. Flesh me out.
Exactly. Or just to scare people into selling.
Hmm.
Then these larger players can swoop in and buy up the coins cheaper.
Gotcha. So it's presented as more strategic, less about organic selling pressure from the masses?
That's the idea presented in that source, yeah.
Mhm.
That the dip wasn't necessarily weakness, but maybe a tactic by big money to accumulate more Doge.
That's a really interesting angle on it.
Okay.
So moving to another altcoin, XRP. The sources here seem kind of all over the place, like a real mixed bag of signals.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's an ETH News piece covering XRP, and it highlights something pretty positive first.
What's that?
It points to Ripple's new stablecoin, RLUSD. They're U.S. dollar-backed one for institutions.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Well, this source says it just got regulatory approval in Dubai.
Oh, wow. Dubai.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant, right? A major hub.
Definitely. The article suggests this is a big positive driver. Could boost institutional confidence, maybe fuel some short-term XRP price momentum. It even hints, based on some sentiment, at a potential move towards $3.
$3. Okay, that sounds quite bullish for XRP, based on this source.
It certainly does. Getting those regulatory green lights, especially in places like Dubai, is usually seen as very positive.
Uh-oh. There's always however in crypto, isn't there?
Seems like it. The very same source, ETH News, also presents a completely contrasting data point.
Which is?
XRP ledger activity. So, the actual usage of the network had apparently dropped to its lowest level in 8 months.
Oh. Okay, wait. So big regulatory win, positive institutional news, but actual network use is hitting an 8-month low.
Exactly. That's the tension the source presents.
Does the article try to reconcile those or explain why?
I kind of just presents them both side by side. It highlights that contrast. Low ledger activity could imply less organic use or demand for the network itself, which is kind of fundamental to the asset's value long term.
Right.
So it really puts a question in front of you, the reader. How do you weigh this external boost, the regulatory news and price talk, against declining fundamental activity on the network itself?
Yeah, that's a critical point pulled straight from the source. Those conflicting signals need careful thought.
Definitely.
And speaking of conflicting views, wow, the sources also offer wildly different takes on the entire crypto market cycle, where we are overall.
Oh, yeah. We've got a piece from Coinomedia and another one from Coinu.com, and they seem to be looking at the same history but seeing different futures.
Okay, what's the Coinomedia take?
Well, that piece makes a pretty stark claim. It argues the current cycle, they call it #CryptoCycle 2024, eerily mirrors the 2014 to 2017 period, not the 2021 boom.
2014, 2017. Okay. That period had ups, but also some pretty significant downturns, right? Not just straight up like 2021 felt sometimes.
Exactly. And this source, Coinomedia, it doesn't mince words. It warns, quote, "Most won't see it coming. Brace for a rude awakening."
Oof. Rude awakening. That sounds decidedly bearish, like maybe a big correction or even a prolonged downturn is coming based on that older pattern.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. It's forecasting a potentially negative shift, looking at historical charts from that earlier, more complex cycle. It's a very cautious, maybe even pessimistic view from that source.
Okay. But then you said the Coindu.com article had a different perspective.
Completely different, yeah. It also does a crypto market bull cycle comparison, but its conclusion is, quote, "Signs point to a delayed but explosive finale."
Delayed but explosive finale. Okay, so that sounds more optimistic. Does it also compare to past cycles?
It does. It references the 2017 cycle, calling it a classic climb and sudden fall, sort of a textbook pattern.
Right, the big blow off top.
Yeah. But this CoinDo article seems to suggest that while there might be echoes, the current cycle maybe isn't following the exact same timing as 2017.
So instead of bracing for that rude awakening the other source warned about, this one forecasts a delayed but explosive finale. It sounds like they think that big parabolic surge, the crazy peak we saw back then, is still coming. Just maybe taking longer this time around.
That's how it reads, yeah. It offers a counter-narrative to the more bearish view. It suggests that maybe the really dramatic upward phase of the bull market is still ahead, just postponed compared to previous cycles.
Wow, okay, so you literally have one source saying, watch out below, based on 2014-17, and another saying, hold on, the big explosive peak is still coming, just later, possibly referencing 2017's finale.
Exactly. Puts the contrast right there for you. One warns of a fall, the other anticipates a delayed surge.
Man, it really shows the range of analysis out there on any given day, doesn't it? Even looking at similar history, getting these directly conflicting viewpoints from your own sources is so important.
Absolutely. Understanding that these different interpretations exist is just fundamental to navigating all the information flying around in crypto.
Well said. And that actually brings us towards the end of our deep dive into this particular stack of sources from June 5th, 2025.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit. We started with that really unique CoinMarketCap story.
Yeah.
The solo miner hitting the jackpot with 3.15 Bitcoin. Pure individual luck.
Right. Then we looked at Bitcoin's technical picture around 105K from Crypto Newsland, watching that 50-day average and the triangle apex with the potential $110K target mentioned in the source.
We also dug into the altcoins. Yellow News' interesting take on Dogecoin's dip below $0.20 as a calculated liquidity sweep, not just simple selling.
And those mixed signals for XRP from ETH News, the
Yeah.
big Dubai approval for RLUSD on one hand.
Contrasted with that 8-month low in XRP ledger activity reported in the same piece.
Yeah. And finally, we hit that major disagreement between sources on the overall market cycle. Coinomedia warning of a rude awakening based on the 2014-2017 mirror.
While CoinDo.com pointed towards a delayed but explosive finale, suggesting the bull run's peak might still be coming.
And just to reiterate, every single point, every insight, contradiction, forecast, all pulled directly from the stack of sources you provided for this deep dive.
That's right. No outside info brought in, just what was in the document.
Exactly. And so maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on as you digest all this.
Okay.
Think about the contrast we saw. On one side, you have the single person striking it rich through pure solo mining luck, a totally unpredictable outlier event, right? Just chance.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, you have these market analysts looking at charts and history, seriously debating whether the entire market cycle is heading for a structured rude awakening or some delayed explosive finale.
Yeah. Two very different scales, individual luck versus macro prediction.
So the question is, what does this blend tell you? This mix of totally unexpected individual wins happening alongside deep uncertainty and debate about the market's overall direction. What does that say about the current state and maybe the future predictability of crypto right now? That's a great question to ponder. And it all comes straight out of these sources we just went through.
It does indeed. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.